Fire Emblem Three Houses is almost here, and honestly, I'm pretty hyped. I did say earlier that I am planning on doing a blind playthrough of this game, so I want to get some stuff out of the way before that begins. Namely, what my approach to the videos is going to be, and what my quote-unquote spoiler policy is. First thing I want to get out of the way, I do not intend to play all 3 routes blind on the channel. I did that for Fates, but with that game, all 3 routes were essentially different games. From the looks of things, while there are going to be divergences in story and maps, the majority of the gameplay is going to be relatively the same across all routes in this one, so there'd be a lot of redundancy if I did do all 3 of them, and it would take a very long time. But actually the main reason why I only want to record a blind run of one route is to leave open the possibility for a full in-depth walkthrough style playthrough of this game in the future. Which is one thing that I missed being able to do with Fates. Since I recorded all 3 routes as blind runs, I left myself with no way to do a full in-depth walkthrough series on that game without retreading old ground that had already been on the channel. This game's multiple route structure, on the other hand, gives me the perfect opportunity to leave that window open for the future. And for these reasons, I'll only be doing a blind playthrough of one route. But you're probably wondering, which route will that be? Well, I actually don't know, not even now. All I know is, it's between either the Blue Lions or the Golden Deer. I knew quite early on that Black Eagles was definitely out. Reason being, it was obviously going to be the most popular house. And I like to show off the lesser known aspects of games, so I wanted to cover a more overlooked route. But I'm actually still torn between the other 2. I think I'm going to play through the beginning of the game up to the route split and make my decision then. But I suppose I might as well list my personal pros and cons for each route now. Just bear in mind, I'm not making any judgment about these houses or routes at all. This is purely the pros and cons when it comes to my own personal decision. The Blue Lions is probably the house that appealed to me the most immediately. I really like knights, and don't particularly like Black Eagles' makeup of a lot of mages because that's a recipe for a lot of people dying quite easily. Blue Lion seems like it would have a good balance of durability while also having some magic using party members, but also its characters are the ones that jump out to me personally the most. All of them seem to have good potential, a few of them have potential ties to the overall story, and none of them seem particularly tropey either. Potential cons of this house. 1, there's nobody in this house that I'm really considering marrying Byleth to. 2, it may be a little bit too conventional. What I mean is, it'll be a pretty standard Fire Emblem team makeup. A lot of Cavaliers, a couple of Mages, maybe 1 Archer. It might not present any unique challenges when it comes to balancing a party that way. 3, there's a reasonable chance Dimitri may go a bit crazy after the time skip, and I really don't want his route to end up being the quote-unquote evil route, because we all know how that turned out with Nor. Next is Golden Deer. Now, I'm less drawn to this house than I am Blue Lions immediately, and to be honest, I don't particularly like Claude that much, and I don't really like many of the characters in this house on first impressions. But that's precisely why I'm thinking of choosing it, because this way, the characters have more room to surprise me. I also kinda liked Hilda initially. I don't really now with the reveal of her personality, but it seems like she's unrecruitable, so it might be a reason to go to this house for her alone. Also, the Archer-heavy, very unconventional party that the Golden Deer seem to have would make for a lot of interesting tactical challenges. It'd certainly be a more unique experience. Potential downsides. Like I said, the characters don't immediately appeal to me as much as the Blue Lions ones do. So, if it turns out that none of them end up surprising me, I may end up with a party of characters that I don't particularly care for. Also, they've made a big deal about Claude being a schemer in pre-release materials, and that worries me a little bit. His route could also potentially turn out to be an evil campaign. There's also the fact that many of these characters have surnames that are taken from William Shakespeare's play King Lear. Now, King Lear is one of the Shakespeare plays that I'm the least familiar with, but I do know that it is one of the most bleak and depressing plays he ever wrote. Almost the entire cast are horrible people, and everyone remotely sympathetic, and pretty much everyone else dies horribly by the end. That really doesn't bode well for this route. Also, it's rumoured that the Golden Deer have the most difficult and complex map design of all 3 routes, and if that's the case, maybe they're better saved for a full walkthrough style series, like Fire Emblem Fates Conquest is. I still feel bad about not really being able to do that route justice. It has some excellent maps, but many of them don't look good when played blind. So, that's all when it comes to the house choice. Now a few other choices that I'll get out of the way ahead of time. First, difficulty. I'm kind of leaning towards playing on normal, and here's why. I feel like it's probably better for a blind run to be too easy than too hard. I know a lot of people like to see rage, but I personally don't like it when I get that way. I'll just say I'm really not proud of how I acted during Chapter 25 of Conquest Blind, and I really do not want a repeat of that. I feel like the entertainment value in a blind run is seeing someone react to the story and to the maps and certain gameplay elements for the first time, not when they're constantly raging at things. There've also been very conflicting reports on whether this game's hard mode is too easy or whether it's legitimately difficult. Apparently it varies based on the route, and most reviewers played Black Eagles. So, I'd rather be safe than sorry here, but I probably will play on Classic because of Divine Pulse. Though on the off chance that I run out of Divine Pulse and someone dies, I will be restarting the chapter. It's still going to be a no deaths run. Next thing you'll probably be asking is who I'm planning on marrying Byleth to. Honestly, I have no idea. Firstly, I am treating them as their own character and not as a self-insert, but I don't have any silly headcanons like I had with Corrin and Robin. At least not yet anyway. Some may emerge over the course of the playthrough depending on how things go. But it's not just Byleth, I just don't know enough information about any of the characters to really decide on pairings for anyone. I think I'm going to view a few supports, see which ones I like, and then go for those. With Fates, the characters were tropey enough that just from their pre-release descriptions, I could make pretty good guesses as to who would be a good match for who. I haven't really been able to do that with this game, so like I said, I'm just going to do some supports and see which ones I end up liking. Depending on how things go, I may end up not supporting Byleth with anyone at all. It's not necessary now due to the lack of a children's system. I'm also not 100% sure on what the actual video style will be for this series, though I do know that I'll be trying to have the Academy parts and the Battle parts numbered separately, but I'm still thinking of a numbering system. So that's all about my plans for the playthrough, but what about the spoiler policy? This is something that I've got a lot of questions about, and honestly they're a little hard to answer at this point. I feel I have a very good community in the comment sections on this channel, and back when I did Fates Blind, I was surprised at not getting very many spoilers at all in the comments. Most people seem pretty respectful about that. That being said, many people have conflicting definitions of what does and doesn't count as a spoiler, so I thought I'd get mine out of the way now. What counts as a spoiler for me? Really, anything, both story and gameplay, that has not shown up in a video yet. I'm going to try and record ahead just like I did with Smash Ultimate, because I feel that's the best way to avoid the risk of spoilers. After all, spoilers can't influence my decision on a certain part if I've already recorded that bit. But all I can really say for now is, unless I specifically ask to be told something, don't tell it to me. That's the general rule of thumb you'll want to keep in mind. Or to put it in other words, always assume any information about this game is a spoiler unless I say otherwise. I know a lot of you will be very eager to discuss this game, but remember that the main appeal of a blind playthrough is to see someone play through a game unspoiled, and the moment that person gets spoilers about what's going to happen in the future, you lose the fun of a blind playthrough. Really, not spoiling me is in your best interests. It makes the videos more fun for all of you. That's how I see it anyway. Some people have asked, though, whether they can discuss story spoilers from other routes. And I'm still a little conflicted on whether to allow that or not, but I'm thinking right now that after I beat the route that I'm on, I'm likely to go on TV Tropes and spoil myself on the story of the rest of the routes anyway. So I guess I'll allow that, but keep it on a chapter-by-chapter basis. What I mean by that is that if I'm on, say, Chapter 12 of Blue Lions, you can discuss up to Chapter 12 of Black Eagles, but no further. That sounds like a good compromise, especially since I get the feeling there'll be certain story events and maps that will happen on all routes. There is one more thing that I want to get off my chest when it comes to spoilers, though. It's something that Twitch streamers often refer to as backseat gaming, but I personally like to refer to as advice spoilers. I do remember getting quite a few of these comments during the Fates Blind run. Now, I know these people mean well. They're trying to alert me to aspects of the game that I might miss if I don't know about them in advance. But a lot of people don't realize how harmful these can be when it comes to spoiling major developments. Specifically, before I even started the Fates Blind run, I got tons of comments saying, you might want to get Kaze to an A support with Corrin on the Birthright route, not gonna spoil anything, but... I'm sorry, but when you word it like that, it doesn't take a genius to guess what happens to Kaze if you don't get him to an A support with Corrin. I thought I'd bring this up now because, due to the whole cross-house recruitment mechanic, plus the fact that the three houses go to war during the war phase... Now, I haven't been spoiled on anything about the plot, but it's pretty easy to guess that there are going to be students who will die if you don't recruit them during the academy phase. And I know people will be very, very tempted to give me advice spoilers, like, make sure you recruit this student from this house before the time skip. Just like with the Kaze example, it's very easy to guess who dies based on information like that. Now I just want to quickly go over what I do and don't know from pre-release materials, just so we're all on the same page there. Because I have not seen all pre-release materials. There have been some that I've specifically avoided, and I don't want to be spoiled on what was in them. General rule of thumb, I've been keeping up with Serenes Forest newsfeed. If something is on there, chances are I've seen it or know about it. The one exception is the Japanese overview trailers. I specifically avoided watching those because I was told they had major spoilers in them. But all of the Famitsu info, a lot of those website updates, I know about all of that. As for videos, I've seen all of the trailers up to E3, and I watched the E3 demo footage across various channels, again, the ones that were posted on Serenes Forest. But after that point, I pretty much blacked out when it came to videos. GameXplain has a lot of videos like tours of the monastery, things like that, have not seen any of that. A lot of channels have uploaded the opening movie. I have not seen the opening movie yet. Many sources have released lists of all the students' weapon proficiencies and skill proficiencies. I have not seen those, and I don't want to know any of that information. I want to experiment with the teaching system myself and figure out for myself what the students are good and bad at. Some websites seem to have revealed some profile information on characters and certain plot things. I don't know any of that either. And then there's the Fanny Bomb leak. I did look at elements of the Fanny Bomb leak, but not all of it. The stuff in the leak I looked at is mostly restricted to the stuff that was confirmed in the E3 trailer. I was just curious to see how accurately the leak had predicted that information. I saw a little more of the Fanny Bomb info when it was covered on Serenes Forest, things like rumours as to what the Three Lords' final classes will be, and I've also seen elements of the Fanny Bomb leak regarding the same-sex marriage options. Oh, by the way, I do know who the same-sex options are for male Byleth, but for female I only know the student options. Most of the other stuff in the Fanny Bomb leak I specifically avoided. Apparently there was a lot of story details that were in there. I've not seen any of that. Case in point, I read a comment on Serene's Forest that said that IGN recently revealed a little bit of Dedeu's backstory, and that confirms some things that were in the Fanny Bomb leak. None of that means anything to me because I didn't see the Fanny Bomb leak or the IGN article regarding Dedeu's backstory, so don't tell me. And while I might end up pulling on the Three Houses banner in Heroes, I'm going to avoid tapping any of the characters and getting their voice clips because some of those might be spoilers too. That should sum up what I do and don't know about this game. So I guess a summary of everything. This will be a blind playthrough, it will only be covering one of the houses, it will be either Blue Lions or Golden Deer, it will be on normal, classic, probably. And regarding spoilers in the comments, always assume that any information related to something in the game that has not been covered in a video, whether it be story or gameplay, is a spoiler unless I say otherwise. Don't tell me about anything I haven't already seen unless I specifically ask to be told about it. The exception is you can discuss story developments in other routes, but only up to the chapter that I'm currently on. Oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier, regarding supports, please don't recommend supports or pairings to me. I want to discover which supports I like and dislike for myself, completely unbiased and uninfluenced by other opinions. So, I know it might be tempting, please don't recommend support pairs to me. And, okay, that should be everything. All that's left to do is to, well, wait for the game. Oh, and regarding the upload schedule and what this game's release means for the channel, I am not going to be putting Trails in the Sky on hiatus. That's still going to continue, just with less updates per week. I'm thinking tentatively 4 videos of Three Houses, 3 for Trails in the Sky per week, but that schedule is subject to change depending on what I get recorded and whether I hit a particularly dramatic moment in Three Houses or not.